Hi, everyone. Welcome to this live broadcast. My name is Michael Davies. I am the founder of Davies Media Design. It's a YouTube channel that does GIMP tutorials and just other graphic design tutorials in general. This video will be live, well, obviously right now, but it'll also be up on my channel once it's all done. I'm being joined by my puppy here, who's gnawing on my hand while I'm talking. But yeah, so I'm just going to kind of run through some things here. Doesn't look like there's any live viewers now, but more than likely there will be viewers later uh, once this goes up on the channel and it's no longer live. But anyway, today's agenda, I'm just going to kind of show you where you can get GIMP. I've had a lot of people ask on my channel where to go to download GIMP. Some people have even asked what program I'm using while doing the tutorials, which may seem kind of obvious to some, but and I'm going to take my glasses off here because I can see my own reflection. But yeah, some people, don't necessarily know the program; they're not familiar with it. So this is kind of a beginner's session, but it's also, a good place to ask questions if you have any, or just to kind of watch as we go. And yeah, looks like somebody's joining us now, and just been kind of talking with myself. It's going to be up on my channel a little bit later anyway. But yeah, welcome to the live show. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of show you around GIMP, where to download GIMP, uh, just some different techniques. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I have a comment section to your right of the video where you can just kind of type in any comments you may have, and I'll go ahead and try to address them. But first, I'm just going to show you kind of a quick updated tutorial on how to make a YouTube thumbnail. And then, if I just need to kind of kill some time, I'll do also how to edit a photo. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here, and I'm going to try to do a screen share. Hopefully, this will work. Do my entire screen here. All right. So just before I begin, I'm going to show you, this is my YouTube channel. Some of you are familiar with it, youtube.com/Davies Media Design. Thank you so much to everybody who's been supporting me. This channel has definitely grown over the years, but you can come here for YouTube tutorials, or GIMP tutorials, I should say. And my most recent tutorial is how to design a geometric background, and that's just kind of something that I've been seeing on a lot of things. So you can definitely watch that. How to make a business card, how to do some photo editing. So yeah, just go ahead and browse around when you have some extra time. I also have a Google Plus page, google.com/plus Davies Media Design, posting updates on there, so you can follow me there. Facebook, obviously, facebook.com/Davies Media Design, and I have a Twitter, which right now I'm just kind of viewing my feed. But yeah, twitter.com/Davies Media DES. You can always go there for updates. Sometimes I do marketing updates, sometimes I do graphic design, a lot of GIMP stuff, a lot of announcements for new tutorials I might have up. And then, of course, you have GIMP. Um, this is GIMP.org. This is where you can go to download the program. For some of you, you've already done this step, so this is a little repetitive. I'm just going to go over it very quickly. GIMP.org. GIMP is a free program. It's basically like Photoshop, and you can download it for free. That's the main difference. It's been doing quite a bit of updates since I started using GIMP. They've been kind of morphing it to be more and more like Photoshop. So you can just come over here and click download, and that'll take you to the download screen. And yeah, so here you can download it for GIMP, or sorry, you can download it for Windows or for Mac. I believe it automatically takes you, yeah, GIMP for Windows, so you don't have to kind of go searching for it. I recommend using the via HTTP or .exe. That's just your standard .exe file download, which I think we're all used to. You just download it, click on the executable file, and that'll go ahead and start the automatic download. So pretty easy. All right, so now that we've established all that, I'm going to just go ahead and get started here on the tutorial part of the live show. By the way, this is my first live performance here on GIMP, or on just in general on YouTube, anywhere. So yeah, it might be a few hiccups, but I'm going to go ahead and try to get this started here. Go back to the screen share, entire screen, and I think most of you have seen my edited versions of all the tutorials I've done, so there's usually not a whole lot of mistakes, so this will definitely be new. So anyway, the tutorial I'm going to start off with before I start answering questions is just how to use GIMP. Uh, I'm basically going to show you how to create a thumbnail. I'll show you how to create this thumbnail right here. And this, it's a pretty standard design. I think the evolution of thumbnail, it's definitely come a long way. It used to be very, like almost that Japanese art style where it's like the pop art and you're trying to be as kind of ridiculous as possible to catch people's attention. I think now it's a little bit more elegant, a little more subtle. So that's basically the technique I'm going to go over here. It's just an updated version of the tutorial I've done before, which is how to create a YouTube thumbnail. So, essentially you have the text here. I put a certain effect on it to make it kind of pop a little bit or give it a 3D effect. I've inserted a icon in here and done a little bit of shape work here to just kind of pull out the how to use portion. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. And I think we all know how to open GIMP from your computer. You just got to find the GIMP program wherever it's located, double click it, it'll open. So I'm not going to go through that. But to create a new document, I'll go to File, New. And the thumbnail size that they recommend for YouTube is 1280 by 720. So I'm going to go ahead, and if these aren't already set, you can just type in 1280, 720, make sure it's set to pixels. I think that's the standard, so it should already be set there. Go ahead and click OK. And this will take you to a brand new document here. And something I went over in one of my newer tutorials is Adobe Color CC. And basically that program, I wouldn't call it necessarily a competitor to GIMP because they kind of, are a bit above GIMP, but you also have to pay a ton of money for it. But essentially, Adobe offers a free program called Adobe Color CC, and here you can input a color that you want and come over here to the color rule, and it'll give you all of the different color rules here. So I went ahead and entered a blue color that I liked, and now I'm on the shades mode, so I get all these different shades of the blue that I put in. And this helps you stay within the color rule so that it doesn't kind of start to clash or not look right or unprofessional. So I definitely recommend using this while you're working, especially with GIMP, since GIMP doesn't offer any kind of color program like Adobe Illustrator would to kind of make sure that you're staying within the different color boundaries. So anyway, that's kind of a long-winded explanation, but my dog is trying to get my attention here. But so I'm just going to first change this background color. So I'm going to click on this square here, rectangle. It's a little hard to see because it's white right now, but first thing I want to do is choose a good foreground color, and that's the color that I just went ahead and copied from Adobe Color. And I'm going to go back to my Adobe Color here and choose the lighter blue. And I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. I'm going to choose the background color. And by the way, hit Control C, and now I'm hitting Control V to paste it inside this HTML notation. Click OK. And so now you have a foreground and a background color. And the reason I did that is because I'm going to go ahead and grab the blend tool, and I'm just going to basically create a gradient on this background layer here so that our background is a gradient, uh, which gives it a little bit of a more dynamic look. So just make sure that your shape for now is radial. Um, you can have it be linear, square, bilinear, conical. Uh, Definitely a bunch of options there. So once you have out of here, yeah. Again, my dog is just trying to get my attention. But once you've chosen the gradient, you can go ahead and click and drag, and that'll kind of create the background there. And if you don't like that going from dark to light, you can go ahead and come up here, click the arrows, change it so that it goes from light to dark, and go ahead and try that again. And there, this is a very subtle gradient because the colors I chose are pretty similar. But essentially, this gives you a little bit of a more dynamic background than having just a plain colored background. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is kind of get started on this text here. And, you can choose whatever font that you want for this text. I'm going to choose something called Mission Script. And this is going to, just give me that cool kind of modern script looking text. But again, you can choose whatever you want. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the text tool here. And my font is on Mission Script. And I'm going to work on the size and everything later. So I'll just do how to use. Go ahead and increase this. Of course, I got to select all of the text first. And I might not have selected all of it, but check in a second. Yeah. Make sure all is selected. Go ahead and change the color to white. Click OK. And just go ahead and increase it until it's the size you want. Um, by the way, if you want to change the font, because I already had it set to Mission Script, but if you come over here to the text area, and it looks like my computer's thinking. There we go. So go ahead and click on those letters there, and then click this AB. I prefer to do that because it kind of brings the fonts out on a separate uh, dialog box here, and then you can kind of click on one and click the down arrow, and that'll allow you to kind of just go through the different text options there. So I've clicked on one, and just kind of clicking up, and then let's say I like this one. You can go ahead and close that box there. Grab the move tool here and go ahead and move that a little bit higher because I'm going to go ahead and create another text layer by clicking that text icon there, clicking on the document, and then I just typed GIMP. Make sure you select all the text and go ahead and increase the size of that. And since this is our main text, I want to make sure that's nice and big so it's easy to read, especially if I'm using it as a thumbnail. That's a little too big though, so if I can come over here, this is my layers panel, by the way. Double click on GIMP right there, decrease the size, make sure I select it first, of course, decrease the size. And the next thing I'm going to do, this is kind of a new feature on the newest version of GIMP, but essentially I'm going to use this align tool here. Make sure my text layer is still selected. Grab this align tool and go ahead and click to, sorry, you're gonna have to grab the align tool, click on the text itself, and then click align to center of target. That'll go ahead and align your text to the middle of your document here. So I'm gonna grab my move tool again, and I'm actually gonna take a quick break here. Um, go ahead and go back to my camera. Let me see if I can do that just so I can Yeah, there we go. Kind of see if there's any questions so far that anybody has. We go ahead and check really quick. And of course, once we get to the answer question and answer portion of this broadcast, I will definitely make sure that I address any questions you may have, whether that is photo editing or graphic design related. If you've got something coming up, some kind of event, and you're looking to, design invitations. I've had a lot of people leave comments that, they need invitations done. And it looks like I do have a comment on here. And you might hear some echo because I have the video up. So let me make sure I mute. That's okay. Supernal Gnome 1 asks, how do you convert it to a YouTube channel art? Because whenever I try to convert it, it just shows black. I might need some clarification on what you mean by that, and I will definitely later on in this tutorial, I will show you how to export your document so that it's a JPEG, and once you export as a JPEG, Google should accept it as long as it's not too large of a JPEG. I believe they have a maximum size of 2 megabytes. So just the one thing to remember when you're exporting is that you're exporting it as a JPEG or one of the other file types that they accept, and that keep it under 2 megabytes. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my screen share and just keep watching, and I'll get to the part where you export it so that it's ready to go for YouTube. So back to the screen share we go. Okay, so we have this text here, and how to use GIMP. It's pretty plain right now, not going to lie. It's not the best looking thing I've ever seen. So basically what we're going to do now is start to get into the process of, spicing it up a little bit, adding a little bit of effects. And these things are really easy to do and, can make the thumbnail that much more professional, make your channel look more professional. So basically, I'm just going to start by clicking on this GIMP text layer, and then I'm going to click the duplicate icon right here. I'm going to grab the move tool up here on my toolbox, and I'm going to go ahead and click that top layer there and just drag it a little bit down and to the right. And now I'm going to go ahead and grab this layer underneath it, and I'm going to go back to my color wheel here, and I'm going to grab this dark color. Go ahead and hit Control C or Command C if you are on a Mac. And I'm going to double click that GIMP text, and I'm going to go ahead and under HTML notation, Control V to paste, click OK. And that didn't work. So let me see what happened there. Move that out of the way. Oh, I'm sorry. So looks like I either got to select all the text there, or in this case, since it's kind of a layer underneath, there's a box right here, a square. You got to go ahead and click that. Then you can go ahead and paste your color in there. Normally that does it. Maybe I got to make sure that it's actually selected here. There we go. So yeah, just make sure your text is selected. I feel like with GIMP, who knows? Sometimes things work a certain way, sometimes they don't. But hey, it's a free program and it works. So go ahead, and I grabbed the move tool, and I was just moving this top text layer here so that it's not too far off to the side or offset. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same for the how to use text here. Go ahead and duplicate that layer. I'm going to go ahead and move that top layer a little bit down. Grab that bottom layer there, double click it to bring up the text editor here. Oops, sorry about that. Control Z. See, and this is the beauty of being able to edit your videos is you can edit out those little mistakes. But go ahead and move that down. Grab my text here, just select it. Go ahead and click on that square, and you can choose that color we just set because it's now set as a previous color used. I'm going to click OK, and go ahead and grab my move tool again, and just kind of adjust this so that it's how we want it. All right, so now you have you know, a little bit of pop, not too much, but a little bit more than we had before. So we're going to go ahead and continue to build on this. And I'm going to go ahead and do that by grabbing that top GIMP 1 main text layer. And by the way, if you don't have this layers panel, which sometimes happens, you can go to Windows, recently closed docs, and it should be in there. Mine's not in there right now because I have it open. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and grab a filter, and under Decor, click Add Bevel. And this is a very simple way to give your text a little bit of pop. You don't really have to do much. Mine's preset to 10. Yours might be different, and you might not like the 10 preset, but I'm going to go ahead and just keep that at 10. Click OK. And now what this does is you'll see that you've added a little bit of bevel to your text, and it gives you that kind of 3D look to your text without really having to do much. And it's a nice little tool to have if you're not trying to get too intense with the 3D, quick and dirty. And you'll see that it kind of created a second document here, and that's just how GIMP rolls. You know, it's just for some reason, you know, instead of keeping it all within your original document, now you have a second document. But all of your layers are still there, so you can continue to work from this document. All right, so once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead, and you'll notice also, just another quick tidbit here, that it's converted your text into a kind of new layer that is no longer editable text. So if you have text that you want to edit after you do that, you're definitely going to want to wait and save that to the very end, because otherwise now you can no longer edit that top layer. But you know, you can you've got this bottom layer under here, which you can always duplicate and start over with, worst case scenario. Speaking of that, while we're in the middle here, you want to make sure that you save this document as you're working, so that you know, if your computer crashes or anything like that, you can go ahead and start over. So to do that, just go to File, Save, and File Save is sorry about that, allergies. Yeah, File Save is the default for saving your document as an XCF, which is the default file type for GIMP. It's kind of like an Adobe Illustrator, a .ai file. It's basically, or Photoshop, it's a PSD. It's just the layer file, the layered file. So I'll save this as, you know, just save it as whatever you want, hit enter, and now you have it saved as thumbnail.xcf, and you can just hit Control S as you go along, and that should just save it so that you don't lose any changes should something happen. Okay, anyway, going back here, I'm going to go to that GIMP text layer, and I'm going to go ahead and go to Filters, Light and Shadow, and I'm going to choose Drop Shadow. And you'll notice on Windows that down here is kind of the blinking icon, GIMP icon, which is, you know, for some reason GIMP likes to, at least on a Windows computer, have the script foo dialog box kind of appear beneath your actual composition, so it can be hard to find. You have to just make sure you go down there and click on it. So anyway, you know, this is offset X, meaning the X axis that the drop shadow is going to be kind of slightly to the right on if it's positive, or slightly to the left if it's negative. Offset Y, Y axis, same thing. Blur radius, that's just kind of how far out the blur goes for the shadow. And obviously, color is your shadow color. Opacity is, you know, 100% being completely not see-through at all, 0 being completely see-through, basically can't even see it. 60% is just a little bit, and you want to make sure that it's not too much or too little, depending on the effect you're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and keep all the settings the same. And now we have this kind of outer shadow. How to use GIMP, that kind of gives it a little bit of pop there. So that's definitely looking good. Uh, and I'm going to go ahead and take another very short break and see if you guys have any questions. Just make sure that everybody's following along fine and that nobody's completely lost. Okay, and somebody is asking, do you recommend JPEG or PNG and why? And that's actually a really good question. And recently I was working with a client who he might actually be watching right now, but he was asking me why I saved as a JPEG instead of a PNG. And PNG can give you a little bit better quality, and it also supports transparency. So let's say you are creating an icon and you want to be able to put that icon on any kind of background in the future. Uh, you're going to want to have that icon, like let's say it's a circular shape. If you don't want any other background around it, if you save it as a PNG, it'll have what's called transparency around it, or in other words, there won't be any background. It'll just be the circular shape. So when you paste it onto something else, the thing you pasted it on will become the background. JPEG does not offer transparency, so JPEGs will have to include the background. Uh, when it comes to uploading for YouTube, a YouTube channel art, uh, you obviously need to keep it under 2 MB. So if you create a really cool design and you want it to look really crisp, you can keep it as a PNG, and that should give it a little bit better quality. However, if you have a lot of effects, a lot of shadows, a lot of, you got a lens flare going on, and a bunch of other stuff, and it's a pretty big file, uh, you're going to want to save it as a JPEG because JPEGs kind of condense it a little bit and therefore give you a little bit of more room to work with. So JPEG's a little bit less quality, but it's not less enough to where it's noticeable. PNG is better quality. So if you're trying to save some space, uh, you're trying to duck under that 2 MB rule, go ahead and go with the JPEG. Not many people, if anybody, will notice that the quality has been reduced a little bit. So yeah, good question. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to my screen share and continue on a little bit. Just kind of go back to showing you how to create a pretty dynamic, pretty simple YouTube thumbnail here. So the next thing I want to do is go ahead and add that shape that you guys saw in the original, and I'll go ahead and pull that back up. So you see here that you have kind of this rhombus shape, and then you have a rectangle underneath it. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that real quick. Now, I do a lot of work in Adobe Illustrator, so obviously Illustrator, it's a little easier to do things like create an outline or what they call a stroke around the rectangle. But in GIMP, you kind of have to work the program a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you that technique. I'm going to create a new layer here by clicking on this icon in the Layers panel. I'm going to name this layer rectangle, doesn't really matter. Click OK. And probably should have named that rhombus actually, but that's all right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my rectangle select tool. And the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of draw the rectangle. And the beauty about the new GIMP is that you can size it now, and you can move it around. And so I'm going to go ahead and go with this for now, and actually maybe elongate it a little bit. So I'm going to just double check the color. I use that darker color there. So I'm going to go ahead and double click my foreground color, choose that darker color we used before, click OK. grab my bucket fill tool and go ahead and fill in that rectangle there. And you can use the shortcut for select none, or you can just go ahead and go to select none at the top. Shift Control A is the shortcut. And go ahead and grab, this is the shear tool. This essentially, if you have a rectangle, it'll turn it into a rhombus. That's basically the only real way I know how to describe it. But you just want to make sure that you have that rectangle selected, and the shear tool will basically make your shape kind of tilt to the right a little bit. And so just all you got to do is click and drag. It'll bring up this grid here, which shows you the angle at which it's being tilted. Go ahead and click shear, and now you have this kind of sheared rectangle or rhombus shape. And I hope that's a rhombus because I'm using the word rhombus a lot, but it's been a while since I took geometry. Now, then I'm going to grab the move tool here, go ahead and center that up, and now we have that shape going on. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab that new layer tool, go ahead and click that, name this new layer rectangle 2, click OK, and by the way, you'll see down here I have transparency selected. If you choose any other type, it's just going to cover up the entire image unless you put it as your background image, which we already have a background image or a background layer, so we don't really need to do that. So I'm just going to make sure to set to transparency, which is the default anyway. Click OK, and here's that new rectangle 2 layer we created. So next thing I'm going to do is grab another rectangle, click and drag it behind here, and go ahead and let go and just kind of adjust it as necessary. And I'm just going to double check the color I used on the original here. So I used kind of a, looks like I used the same color, I just decreased the opacity. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my bucket fill tool, use that same color for now. I might change it in a second here. Grab my rectangle layer, go ahead and drag it underneath the original rectangle layer. Come up to my opacity and just go ahead and click on the very right and just drag it to the left. And now you have, it looks like a different shade of that original dark color. And it just kind of gives it a little bit more of a dynamic look. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this final rectangle here. You can either do it on the same rectangle 2 layer, or you can go ahead and create another layer if you want to have kind of a little bit of insurance in case you don't like it later on when you're working on the document. But basically, I'm just making a very narrow rectangle here. I'm going to just single click on the Windows. You might have to double click on the Mac. Grab that white color there. Go ahead and grab the bucket fill tool here. Actually, I'm going to create a new layer before I do this. Rectangle 3, enter, and I do want to keep this rectangle 3 layer above the rectangle 2 layer. Click inside, and again, select none or Shift Control A. And the reason I created this new rectangle on its own shape is because now I'm going to have to go over here and just decrease the opacity because it kind of stands out a little too much, as you can see. And just a quick tip, you'll notice on the opacity meter, or whatever you want to call it over here, you have kind of the double arrow that shows up for your mouse, or you have the single arrow. The double arrow makes it decrease a little slower, so it's a little more precise, and then this large one arrow pointing up just makes it decrease faster. You're just trying to quickly decrease the opacity there. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and create, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to create this kind of triangular shape that I have going on here, which just kind of gives the composition a little bit more dynamic. And it's a pretty simple technique to do. I'm just going to grab this background layer, click the new layer, and you can call this whatever you want. I will call it, let's call it glass. Click enter. So the trick here, you're going to grab your free select tool. You want to be as close to these corners as possible without getting too close, because you don't want to overlap like this, being like right here instead of here. Uh, that way that the triangle that you're creating here covers, all the areas you're trying to cover. And I'm just clicking to create points, and my final click will be where I created that first point. And you'll see here I kind of missed the corner, but that's okay for now. I'll grab the bucket fill tool, or you can grab the gradient tool if you want. You can change the background color to white as well. Grab this here and do foreground to transparency. That's just another way of making it a little bit more dynamic. And see, this way now you have a little bit of gradient going on. And I'm going to Control Shift A just to get rid of the selection there. Grab that gloss layer, grab my opacity, and try to get that mouse hover to show the large arrow so that it goes a little quicker. And yeah, so now I have that kind of glossy look to this thumbnail here. And the next thing I want to do is, as you can see on this original one, I kind of brought in this picture here. That's the GIMP logo, for those of you who don't know. And actually, before I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and take another quick break and just see how you guys are doing. See if you have any questions posted since it's checked. Somebody just said my GIMP just crashed. So, yeah, that'll happen. GIMP that's why I say you want to go ahead and save the files as often as you can, because you don't want to lose all your work. But yep, GIMP will crash. Some people are just saying, hey, what's up? Yeah, definitely thank you for watching. I'm glad you guys are here. Having a lot of fun. So yeah, so I'll just keep moving. It looks like there's no technical questions. And by the way, it's allergy season, so my nose is definitely getting a little bit itchy right now. But anyway, so I'll go back to the screen share, go to an entire screen. And here we are, back to our thumbnail. So we're getting pretty close to the finish here. So like I said, the next thing I want to do is just kind of add an image. And so to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on File, Open. And basically what you want to do is just find out the location of the image you want to import. And I kind of forgot where I put mine, so I'm not going to choose it again. But basically, you just choose the image you want, click, sorry, where is it? Yeah, open, and that should open it into GIMP, and it should open it like this. So this is actually a PNG, I believe, and this is what I was talking about with the transparency. In GIMP, it'll show you kind of the checkerboard look in the background, but that basically means there's no background on this document. So I can go ahead and go to Edit, Copy, and that'll copy the entire document. If you only wanted to copy, let's say, you had 3 layers here and you wanted to hide two of the layers, then you would just go to Edit, Copy, Visible. And my dog's trying to get a little bit of attention again. So I'll go ahead and now that I have that copied, sit. Here we go. I will go to Edit, Paste. And you'll see this is pasted as a floating selection layer. So I want to go ahead and grab that floating selection layer and click Create a New Layer. And this will just kind of go ahead and bring this in as its own layer now, its own official layer. So now that I have this layer here, I'm going to go to File, Scale Layer, and this will bring up the dialog box to scale this layer now that I just brought in. And you want to make sure that this is linked. This is basically linking the proportions of the document so it doesn't get all skewed. And my unit here, which I just accidentally changed to inches, I want to make sure it's 2%. And you can either click and drag this manually, or you can double click, and if you want to be more precise, just type in the amount you're looking for. go ahead and click scale when you're ready, or reset if you want to start it over. And now we have a 50% scale image here. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure my move tool is selected. And I'm going to go ahead and move that image to the top right here. And now this way we have this image located in the right. And sorry, I'm just trying to kick my dog out of the way. She's gnawing on me. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do here is go ahead and go back to that rectangle layer that we created. And if you want to make sure you're on the right layer, just click hide and unhide. So we're going to go ahead and come over to layer, transparency, alpha to selection. And once we've done that, you'll see a selection over your rectangle there. Go to select, grow. And I have this set to 2 pixels. So, this is kind of going to give you that stroke effect I talked about that Illustrator does, or an outline around the rectangle. Click OK. It's a little difficult to notice, but now this selection layer is 2 pixels larger than the original rectangle we created. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer, name this outline, or you can name it stroke if you want. Click enter. So I'm going to grab that outline layer, drag it under that rectangle layer because we want it to be behind. Grab my bucket fill tool, make sure it's the color is white. Go ahead and click inside that rectangle, select none, and there you go. So you have that kind of stroke outline look around that rectangle. And looks like for the most part we are pretty much done with this thumbnail. It's a little different than the original one I created, but that's all right. So once you're ready to go ahead and save this, and by the way, I haven't saved it in a while, so I'll hit Control S and Command S on an Apple. And you can tell when it hasn't been saved since the last change was made if there's a star next to the name on the document here. So yeah, once you've finished up, obviously you can't upload it as a .xcf to YouTube, so you want to go ahead and go to File, Export, and this will bring up the export dialog box. Let's say you want to name it as thumbnail.jpg. You want to go down here to select file type, open that up, and this will take you to all the different extensions you can save a document as in GIMP, including a PNG or a JPEG. I'm going to go ahead and save it as a JPEG by hitting export. Quality, here you can adjust. Let's say you save it as 100% quality and it's still a little over 2 megabytes. You can go ahead and adjust this so that it saves a little bit of file size without sacrificing too much. You don't want to go to 5 because then it's going to be super pixelated. And go ahead and click export. And there you go. You should have an exported video thumbnail, which you can go ahead and upload to YouTube. Now, the reason I didn't really put anything down at the bottom corner is because that's usually where the timestamp goes, how long this video lasts and that kind of thing. So typically keep that space free unless I put something like in the bottom left corner or maybe off-center here, but I try to avoid the middle or the bottom right because I believe that's where the timestamp goes, and it might be the opposite, actually, the left, but either way, it's good to just double check. And yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoy that tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and take another break here, see if there's any questions, and I'm also going to begin the next portion of the tutorial, which is just kind of some photo editing basics, which some of you have seen my photo editing basics tutorials already. But yeah, might as well go over it again if you guys don't have any major questions. Yeah, so I kind of have an appropriate. There's been an inappropriate comment, so I'm sorry about that. Go ahead and remove that. Stuff happens, it's the internet. So anyway, yeah, so I'll go ahead and take just a couple minute break here. give you guys some time to ask any questions you might have, any graphic design questions, any photo editing questions. Uh, can you face swap in GIMP? Yes. uh, I won't cover that today, but it is definitely possible to do some face swapping in GIMP. Uh, you gotta use a combination of well, it depends how you want to do it. You can use the pre-select tool to kind of draw an outline around the face, and go ahead and hit select invert, and that will. And here I'll actually go back to sharing my screen for a second, and I will just show you really quick what I'm talking about. So you can grab the ellipse select tool here. Let's say this little GIMP guy is the face. You can go ahead, and I'm obviously just doing this quickly and terribly, but draw around the face. That'll give you the selection around the face. Go to select invert and grab your eraser tool, and you can erase everything around that person's face. Uh, Go ahead and select none when you're done. You should just have the face left over there. And then you can go ahead and copy and paste that face to the image that you are wanting to paste it to. Uh, and there's other ways of doing it. That's just kind of a quick way that it can be done. So thank you for that question. Do we have any other questions prior to me kind of moving forward? I'm going to do a photo editing tutorial next, just a quick one. So, I had a few questions on my channel about designing invitations or CD cover designs. So, do we have any questions? Concerning those subjects. If not, I can go ahead and move forward. So hopefully you guys are liking the tutorial. I've got some feedback on here. So it looks like we don't really have any questions at the moment. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on. And I'm going to go back to the screen share. And this will be the last thing I do. We'll do another set of Q&A. If you guys have any other questions for me, and then that'll be it. And this should be posted up on my channel when it's done. So, all right. Let me just double check that I'm screen sharing. Yes. All right. So the next thing I want to do is edit a photo, and obviously, a lot of you, there's a lot of amateur photographers out there, or if you grab a picture off the internet, you want to edit it so that it fits into, maybe you're making a YouTube thumbnail, or you're just making some kind of custom picture. You want to, face swap, or just kind of add somebody to another environment. First thing you want to make sure you do is make that photo look professional. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this photo and click edit with GIMP. And hopefully that doesn't crash GIMP. It should just bring it up. So let's see what we got here. There we go. All right, so this picture happens to be one of my favorite pictures, obviously. Let me go ahead and save this and then close it out. This is me with Paramore, one of my favorite bands. Definitely a really cool moment. Really cool guys. And so, yeah, if you want to just go ahead and do some photo editing, there's a few easy things. I've gone over them in some of my other tutorials, but some of you might have photo editing questions that I haven't answered in previous tutorials. So go ahead and answer those, or go ahead and ask those if you have them, and I'll definitely try to answer them. So there's a few key tools that definitely are very ideal for photo editing, and I'm just trying to figure out the best tool to use here first. So you got enhance, which obviously you have like your sharpen or your unsharp mask, so that's definitely a good tool to use. And then you have your color tools, color balance, hue saturation, brightness, contrast, and levels. Those are pretty much, I mean, you can use the other ones for sure, but those are pretty much the main ones you want to use. And I'm actually going to start with levels. So this levels dialog box here kind of shows you a spectrum of blacks to whites, uh, in terms of colors in a photo. And basically, by dragging these, you're changing a little bit the ratio of those colors, and this just kind of allows you, if your photo is too bright or too dark, or doesn't have a whole lot of contrast, this kind of adds those elements in there. You can toggle the preview here, and as you can see, I just made this have a little bit more contrast and just be slightly brighter without doing too much. And a lot of changes you're going to want to make to photos are going to be very subtle. And maybe at first glance, this photo doesn't seem too bad, but it would be nice to change the colors up a little bit and maybe also scale it, because it looks like this is actually quite large, 63.9 megabytes. That's a pretty big photo. So I'm going to go ahead and go ahead and scale this image. So I'm going to go to Image, Scale Image, and this gives you the dimensions of the image now. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to percent, and I want this to be, let's say, 50%. Go ahead and click Scale, and that'll scale the photo. And I'm going to grab my magnifying glass tool and go ahead and click and zoom in. Now the next thing I want to do is grab my crop tool and just kind of crop this a little bit. And I don't want to crop it too much, but and obviously the photo kind of, you have your backdrop here, the photo went a little bit off the backdrop, so that's all right. Nothing we can really do about that. I'm just going to kind of change the crop here. I'm just clicking and dragging, double click, and there is your cropped image. So I'm going to go ahead and go to colors and choose color balance. And now you have your color balance dialog box. You got your cyan, magenta, yellow, red, green, blue. Basically, if you move this towards cyan, there will be more cyan colors in the image. If you move it over to red, more red colors. So pretty intuitive, pretty easy to understand. And you got green, magenta. And I often do a trial and error. So basically, I see if more green makes it look better, or if more magenta does, or if neither one has an impact. I just kind of leave it towards the middle. Yellow and blue. Sorry about that. So, I'll have a bit of yellow in here. And then you can just kind of preview and see how the colors are looking compared to before. So there's a little bit more red before, and I just added some cyan. I actually want to decrease the amount of cyan. So that was the midtones. Now I'm going to go over to shadows and just see, and actually adding a little bit of red helps make the shadows look a little better. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that there. And see if blue or yellow looks better. So here, blue looks a little better for the shadows, and it'll change depending on if you're doing midtones or shadows or highlights, which color is going to look better, make the image look better. So cyan red doesn't really help a lot, so I'm just going to go ahead and keep that off of there. And magenta or green. Green makes it look a little weird. Magenta is not much better. So just go ahead and keep it towards the middle still. Then you got yellow or blue. And yeah, not a whole lot going on there. So kind of like it that way. Click OK. Now we have a little bit of altered colors here. And So we're making a little bit of progress. And I'm going to go ahead and next thing, we've already done the levels. We've done the color balance. You can do a little brightness contrast if you want. This photo is pretty bright already, and with the levels that we just did, we shouldn't really need to do a whole lot of this. Uh, and in fact, I don't think it really adds to the image at all, so I'm going to just go ahead and skip that. But you know, in some cases, you definitely need to make those adjustments. Now, you can go to the Filters, Enhance, and you can either do Unsharp Mask or Sharpen if you want to sharpen the image. It just really depends. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Unsharp Mask in this case. Now, you'll notice that with too much Unsharp Masks, you know, Haley is looking a little bit weird, way too much contrast. So go ahead and crank down the amount here. Maybe even crank down the radius a bit, and that'll give you a little bit of contrast there. It'll sharpen it up a little bit. You don't want to do it too much. Now the last thing I'm going to do is create a new layer, and I will name this vignette. Okay. And I'm going to grab my ellipse select tool there and make sure I'm on my vignette layer. And I'm going to grab the top left corner and go ahead and drag down to the bottom right corner and release. And now I'm going to go over to my select invert, and that'll make sure the outside of that ellipse is selected. Grab my bucket fill tool, click and choose black, or just go ahead and drag all the way to the top of this color area and go ahead and fill that in. Select none. Go to filters, blur, Gaussian blur or Gaussian blur, and go ahead and adjust, you know, how much blur you want, but you want it to be a decent amount so that this vignette gets blurred. Go ahead and grab that vignette and drag it to the left, opacity-wise. That way it's not too prominent, doesn't look too goofy, and there you go. You know, and that's a very basic photo editing tutorial, and you know, there's definitely a lot more you can do with it, but this just kind of makes it look slightly better than it was before. And again, you can go to File, Export As, and that'll export it as your JPEG, like with Paramore. And, see if I can get this to show. Click Export, and again, you can mess with the quality there. Click Export again, and you're done. So that's pretty much it for the photo editing portion. Let me go ahead and check back and see if there's any comments. Hopefully nothing too crazy in here. So I haven't really had any new comments. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it up. So thanks, guys, for watching. I'm going to go ahead and post this onto my channel. You know, you can definitely check out more tutorials at youtube.com/Davies Media Design. You can follow me at Twitter, twitter.com/Davies Media DES, or Google Plus, google.com/plus Davies Media Design, facebook.com/Davies Media Design. So, you know, thank you all for your support. Definitely have had a ton of support from everyone. You know, tons of views, way more than I ever imagined, tons of subscribers. So thank you all so much for the support, and definitely keep watching and keep learning. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at daviesmediadesign@outlook.com, or just go ahead and leave a comment on any of my tutorials. I always try to answer them when I can. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.